A wealthy CEO hired a struggling single mother to care for his daughter. But when she walked into his mansion, she had no idea he was the same man who'd saved her life years ago. Before we dive into this emotional story, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss an inspiring tale like this. A broken beginning. The rain fell in relentless sheets, turning the city into a blur of neon reflections and slick pavement. Mia Carter tightened her grip on her daughter's small hand, her sneakers splashing through puddles as they hurried toward the bus stop. The weight of the past few months pressed down on her shoulders. The layoff, the eviction notice, the dwindling hope that things would ever get better. Lily, her 6-year-old, looked up at her with wide, trusting eyes. "Mommy, where are we going to sleep tonight?" Mia forced a smile, her throat tight. "Somewhere safe, baby. I promise." But the truth was, she didn't know. The women's shelter had no more beds. Her last paycheck was gone, and the only thing in her wallet was a crumpled job listing she'd torn from a community board. Live-in caretaker needed for a young girl. Private residence. Generous salary. Discretion required. No address, just a phone number. A shot in the dark. She had called from a payphone, half expecting a scam. But the voice on the other end had been calm, professional. "Can you start tomorrow?" And just like that, she was here, standing in front of an iron gate. So tall it seemed to touch the stormy sky. The Hartwell estate. She had heard the name before. Nathaniel Hartwell, the tech billionaire who had vanished from the public eye years ago. Rumors said he had lost his wife in a tragic accident, that he now lived like a ghost in his own mansion. Mia swallowed hard as the gate slowly swung open. The driveway stretched endlessly, lined with perfectly trimmed hedges and old oak trees. At the end stood the house, a modern fortress of glass and steel, glowing against the gray afternoon. Lily squeezed her hand. "Are we rich now?" Mia almost laughed. "No, baby, we're just here to work." Before she could knock, the massive front door opened. A man stood there, silhouetted against the warm light inside. Tall, broad-shouldered, his dark hair slightly tousled, as if he'd been running his hands through it. His sharp blue eyes locked onto hers, and for a second, the world tilted. Something about him was familiar. "Miss Carter," he said, his voice low and steady. "I'm Nathaniel Hartwell." She nodded, suddenly aware of how out of place she looked. Her thrift store coat, her damp sneakers, the backpack holding everything she and Lily owned. "Mia, and this is Lily." His gaze softened as he looked at her daughter. "Come in. It's cold out there." The foyer was all marble and high ceilings, a chandelier dripping crystals above them. Mia fought the urge to gawk. Nate led them to a sitting room where a fire crackled in the hearth. "Sophie will be down in a minute," he said. "She's been eager to meet you." Mia nodded, but her mind was racing. Why had he hired her so quickly? No interview, no references checked. Just yes. Then she heard the patter of small feet. A little girl with wild blonde curls appeared in the doorway, clutching a stuffed rabbit. She couldn't have been more than 7, her eyes bright but guarded. "Sophie." Nate said gently, "This is Mia." "And Lily." Sophie studied them for a long moment before stepping forward. Without a word, she took Lily's hand and pulled her toward the stairs. "I have toys." Lily glanced back at Mia, who nodded. "Go ahead." As the girls disappeared upstairs, Nate exhaled, running a hand over his jaw. She doesn't usually warm up to people that fast. Mia hesitated. "Mr. Hartwell." "Nate." "Nate," she corrected. "Why did you hire me?" He turned toward the fire, his profile sharp in the flickering light. "I needed someone who understood what it was like to struggle." It wasn't the whole truth. She could feel it. Before she could press further, Sophie came bounding back down, holding something in her hands. "A photo. Look," she said, thrusting it at Mia. It was a newspaper clipping, yellowed at the edges. A car accident. A headline, "Good Samaritan saves woman from burning vehicle." Mia's breath caught, because there, in the grainy image, was a younger version of herself, being pulled from the wreckage by a man whose face was turned away from the camera. But she knew those hands, that stance. Her eyes flew to Nate's. He was watching her, his expression unreadable. And in that moment, the pieces clicked together. He hadn't just hired her. He had been there that night. The night she almost died. Secrets in the shadows. The newspaper clipping trembled in Mia's hands. The edges were worn, as if someone had held it many times before. The photo was grainy, but the terror in her own eyes, the way her body hung limp in the arms of the rescuer, sent a cold shiver down her spine. 5 years ago, the night that had stolen her sense of safety. The night she had woken up in a hospital with no memory of how she got there. And now here he was, the man who had pulled her from the wreckage. Nathaniel Hartwell. Mia forced herself to look up at him. His expression was guarded, but something flickered in his gaze. Guilt? Recognition? She couldn't tell. Sophie tugged at her sleeve. You were in an accident? Mia swallowed hard. Yeah, sweetheart. A long time ago. Nate reached for the clipping, his fingers brushing against hers. A spark of electricity shot through her at the contact, and she jerked her hand back instinctively. I should explain, he said quietly. But before he could, the sound of a phone ringing cut through the tension. Nate pulled himself from his pocket, his jaw tightening as he read the screen. I have to take this. He strode out of the room, leaving Mia standing there, her mind racing. Why had he kept this photo? Why had he brought her here? Was it just guilt or something else? Lily's voice pulled her from her thoughts. Mommy, can I go play with Sophie? Mia hesitated. She barely knew these people. But Sophie was already grinning, grabbing Lily's hand. We can go to my room. I have a dollhouse. Before Mia could answer, a woman in a crisp black suit appeared in the doorway. Mr. Hartwell asked me to show you to your quarters, she said, her tone polite but impersonal. Mia glanced toward the hall where Nate had disappeared. She wanted answers, but for now, she had no choice but to follow. The woman, who introduced herself as Miss Grayson, the house manager, led her up a grand staircase and down a long hallway. The walls were lined with framed photographs, but Mia barely registered them. Her thoughts were still tangled in the past. Then one photo caught her eye. It was Nate, standing beside a sleek black car, shaking hands with a man in a lab coat. A logo was emblazoned on the car's door. Hartwell Autonomous Technologies. Her stomach dropped. That was the company behind the self-driving car that had hit her. Miss Grayson stopped in front of a door at the end of the hall. This will be your suite. Your daughter's room is connected. Mia barely heard her. Her pulse roared in her ears. Nate hadn't just been a bystander that night. He was the CEO of the company responsible for the accident, and now she was living in his house. The suite was luxurious, a sitting area, a plush bedroom, a bathroom with a marble tub. But Mia felt no comfort, only dread. She waited until Miss Grayson left before sinking onto the bed, her head in her hands. What had she walked into? A soft knock at the door made her jump. It was Sophie, holding a tray with a teapot and cups. Dad said you might want some tea. Mia forced a smile. That's sweet of you. Sophie set the tray down, then hesitated. You look sad. Mia sighed, just thinking about some grown-up stuff. Sophie climbed onto the bed beside her. My dad gets sad too. Sometimes he cries at night. Mia's chest tightened. Why does he cry? Sophie shrugged. He says it's about the bad car. The bad car? Mia's breath caught. Before she could ask more, Nate's voice came from the doorway. Sophie, it's time for your bath. Sophie hopped down, but not before giving Mia a quick hug. I'm glad you're here. As she skipped out, Nate lingered in the doorway. His shoulders were tense, his hands shoved into his pockets. We need to talk, Mia said, her voice steadier than she felt. Nate nodded. Not here. Meet me in the study in an hour. Then he was gone, leaving Mia alone with her racing thoughts. She spent the next hour unpacking, checking on Lily and trying to calm her nerves. When the time came, she made her way to the study, a dimly lit room lined with books and dominated by a massive oak desk. Nate stood by the window, staring out at the storm. He didn't turn as she entered. You knew, Mia said. You knew it was me. He exhaled sharply. Yes. Why? Her voice broke. Why bring me here? Finally, he turned. His eyes were shadowed with something she couldn't name. Because I owed you. Owed me? She laughed bitterly. You think a job makes up for what happened? It's not just a job. He stepped closer. Mia, that night, the car that hit you was one of ours. A prototype. The brakes failed. She clenched her fists, and you covered it up. His silence was answer enough. Mia turned away, her vision blurring. All these years, she blamed herself for not seeing the car coming. And the whole time, he'd known the truth. I'm sorry, Nate said, his voice raw. I tried to find you after the accident, but you disappeared. When I saw your application, she whirled on him. What? You thought you could buy my forgiveness. No. His gaze held hers. I thought I could finally make it right. A knock at the door interrupted them. Ms. Grayson stepped in, her expression urgent. Mr. Hartwell, the board is on the line. They need you immediately. Nate's jaw tightened. Give me 5 minutes. Ms. Grayson hesitated, then nodded and left. Mia crossed her arms. You still haven't told me everything. I will, he promised. But right now I need you to trust me. She scoffed. Trust you. He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a folder, handing it to her. Read this. It's everything, the accident report, the cover-up, the payments to the witnesses. All of it. Mia took it, her hand shaking. Nate's phone buzzed again. He swore under his breath. I have to go, but we're not done. As he strode out, Mia sank into a chair, staring at the folder in her lap. She had come here for a job. Now. She was holding the truth about the worst night of her life, and she had no idea what to do with it. The weight of truth. The folder felt like a bomb in Mia's hands. The leather chair creaked as she shifted, the weight of Nate's confession pressing down on her. Outside, the storm still raged, rain lashing against the windows like fingers tapping for entry. She should open it. She needed to open it, but fear kept her frozen. What if the truth was worse than she imagined? A soft knock at the door startled her. Lily peeked in, her curls damp from a bath, wearing pajamas that were too big, probably borrowed from Sophie. Mommy, can I sleep with you tonight? Mia quickly set the folder aside and forced a smile. Of course, baby. Lily climbed into her lap, smelling of lavender soap. Sophie's nice. She has a whole closet full of toys. That's great, sweetheart. Mia stroked her hair, her mind still spinning. Are we going to live here now? Lily asked, her voice small. Mia's throat tightened. She had no answer. A creak in the hallway made her glance up. Sophie stood there, clutching her stuffed rabbit, her eyes wide and uncertain. Dad said you might want dinner. Mia hadn't realized how late it was, or how hungry she felt. Thank you, Sophie. That's very kind. Sophie hesitated, then stepped closer. Are you mad at my dad? The question caught Mia off guard. She glanced at the folder, then back at Sophie's worried face. No, sweetie. Grown-ups just have complicated stuff to figure out sometimes. Sophie nodded, as if she understood far more than a 7-year-old should. He gets like that, too. Mia's chest ached. This little girl had lost her mother, and now her father was tangled in secrets. She couldn't punish Sophie for Nate's mistakes. Let's go eat, Mia said, standing and taking both girls' hands. The dining room was dimly lit, a spread of food laid out. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, steamed vegetables. Nate was nowhere in sight. Ms. Grayson appeared, her posture stiff. Mr. Hartwell was called away on urgent business. He asked that you make yourselves at home. Mia clenched her jaw. Of course he'd left. The girls chattered as they ate, but Mia barely tasted the food. Her gaze kept drifting to the hallway, half expecting Nate to appear, half hoping he wouldn't. After dinner, she tucked Lily and Sophie into bed. Sophie insisting they share a room, giggling as they whispered under the covers. Mia kissed them both goodnight, then retreated to her own room. The folder still sat on the desk, taunting her. She took a deep breath and opened it. The first page was a police report. Her name, the date, the words vehicle malfunction, circled in red. Next, A memo from Hartwell Autonomous Legal Team. All evidence must be secured. No public disclosure. Her hand shook as she flipped through more documents. Settlement offers to other victims. Internal emails discussing liability control. And then a photo, not of the accident, of her. A candid shot taken outside her old apartment, dated 2 years ago. Nate hadn't just recognized her from the news. He'd been watching her. A wave of nausea hit her. She stumbled to the bathroom, gripping the sink, her reflection pale in the mirror. What kind of game was he playing? A soft knock at the door. "Mia?" Nate's voice. She whipped around as he stepped inside. His tie loosened, shadows under his eyes. "You read it. You followed me," she hissed, holding up the photo. He flinched. "I was trying to find a way to help you." "Help me?" She laughed bitterly. "You ruined my life." "I know." His voice cracked. "And I've spent every day since that accident trying to fix it. By bringing me here? By lying to me? By giving you a chance to start over." He stepped closer, his gaze desperate. "Mia, the money I offered back then, it wasn't enough. I see that now. But this? A home for you and Lily? A future? That's real." She wanted to scream, to hit him, to walk out right now. But then she thought of Lily, finally sleeping soundly in a warm bed, of Sophie, who'd already lost too much, and the awful, undeniable truth. She had nowhere else to go. Nate reached into his pocket and slid a key across the desk. "The black car in the garage. If you want to leave, just go. No questions." She stared at the key, then at him. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you deserve a choice." His eyes held hers. "But I hope you'll stay." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then, footsteps pattered down the hall. Sophie appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. "Dad, I had a bad dream." Nate immediately softened, scooping her up. "It's okay, sweetheart." Sophie reached for Mia. "You too." Mia's resistance crumbled. She let Sophie take her hand, the child's small fingers clinging tightly. Nate's gaze met hers over Sophie's head, full of silent pleading. And Mia realized this wasn't just about the past anymore. It was about the fragile, uncertain future they were all tangled in now. The ties that bind. The grandfather clock in the hallway struck midnight, its deep chime vibrating through the silent house. Mia sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the car key glinting in the lamplight. Freedom. Escape. All she had to do was take it. But Lily was curled up fast asleep in the next room, her chest rising and falling peacefully for the first time in weeks. And Sophie, sweet, perceptive Sophie, had clung to Mia like she was already part of this fractured family. Mia ran a hand through her hair, exhaling sharply. She needed air. Padding barefoot down the grand staircase, she found herself drawn to the wall of photographs she'd barely noticed earlier. Black and white images of Nate's ancestors mixed with vibrant vacation shots. A younger Nate smiling beside a beautiful woman with Sophie's golden curls. His wife, the mother Sophie had lost. The kitchen was dark except for the dim glow of the stainless steel refrigerator. Mia filled a glass with water, the ice cubes clinking like wind chimes in the stillness. "You're still awake." She nearly dropped the glass. Nate stood in the doorway, backlit by the hall light, his sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms dusted with dark hair. He held 2 files, one thick and worn, the other slim and sealed. "Couldn't sleep," she admitted. He set the files on the marble counter. "I owe you more explanations." The thick file was labeled Project Phoenix in bold red letters. Nate flipped it open to reveal schematics of a car's braking system, all marked with urgent revisions. This was our fix. The real one, buried by the board because it would have cost millions to implement. Mia traced a finger over the technical drawings. "You knew it wasn't safe." "I suspected." His jaw tightened. "When the accident happened, I put everything into developing this. But by then it was too late." The words tasted bitter. Nate pushed the second file toward her. "This is yours, if you choose to stay." Inside were legal documents establishing a trust fund for Lily, a fully paid college tuition plan, and deed to a modest house in Sophie's school district. all in Mia's name. Her breath caught. "This is not an apology," Nate said quietly. "Just a foundation." The back door creaked open suddenly, revealing Miss Grayson in a rain-drenched coat, her usually perfect bun coming undone. "Mr. Hartwell, they've called an emergency vote." Nate's face darkened. "Tonight, the board is moving to suspend your shares unless you approve the merger." Ms. Grayson's gaze flicked to Mia. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but the car is waiting." Mia watched as Nate's shoulders squared, the CEO mask sliding back into place. But before he could leave, she grabbed his wrist. "What merger?" His eyes held a storm darker than the one outside, the one that would put my unsafe cars back on the road. A car horn blared from the driveway. Nate hesitated, then did something unexpected. He cupped Mia's face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. "Stay or go, but know this, I will make it right." Then he was gone, swallowed by the rain and the hum of a departing engine. Mia stood frozen, her skin still tingling where he touched her. The files lay open on the counter. 2 versions of the truth. 2 possible futures. A sound from the doorway made her turn. Sophie stood there, her nightgown pulling around her feet, clutching a framed photo. I heard yelling. Mia knelt to her level. "Everything's okay, sweetheart." Sophie held out the frame. It showed a laughing woman with wildflowers in her hair, Nate's late wife. "Mommy used to say Daddy works too much, that he forgets to be happy." Mia's heart cracked a little. "Your mom sounds like she was very wise." Sophie nodded solemnly. She also said when people are scared, they sometimes hide in their work. She pointed to the files. "Is Daddy hiding?" Mia looked at the documents, at the rain-streaked windows, at this motherless child before her. "Yes," she whispered, "but I think he's trying to come out." Sophie hugged her suddenly, small arms tight around Mia's neck. "Will you help him?" The question hung in the air like the last note of a song. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance. Somewhere in the city, Nate was fighting for redemption. And here, in this too-quiet kitchen, 2 little girls slept unaware of the storm gathering around them all. Mia made her choice. She picked up the phone. The breaking point. The phone rang 3 times before a groggy voice answered. "Hello? Daniel? It's Mia. I need your help." A pause. Then her brother-in-law's voice sharpened with concern. "Mia, where are you? We've been worried sick." "I'm safe, but I need you to look up something for me." She gripped the phone tighter, watching Sophie shuffle back to bed. "Hartwell Autonomous Technologies. There's an emergency board meeting happening right now about a merger." Daniel, a financial journalist, exhaled sharply. "That's not public knowledge. How do you—" "Please, Danny, just tell me what this merger means." Keys clacked in the background. Okay. Holy shit." Papers rustled. "This is huge. If the board forces this through, Hartwell loses controlling interest. The new parent company is— Wait, this can't be right." "What?" "Blackwater Automotive. Mia, they're notorious for cutting safety corners." Daniel's chair creaked as he leaned forward. "If this goes through those defective cars, they'll be on every road in America by Christmas." Ice flooded Mia's veins. She stared at Nate's revised blueprints, the solution that had been buried, the solution that could save lives. Sophie's quiet voice piped up from the stairs. "Is Daddy in trouble?" Mia covered the receiver. "It's going to be okay, sweetheart. Go back to bed." Daniel was still talking. "Need to get out of there, Mia. If Hartwell's about to be ousted, his whole world's going to explode." She looked at the car key on the counter, at the trust fund papers, at Sophie's wide, frightened eyes. "No," Mia said suddenly. "I'm not running." She hung up to Daniel's protest and dialed another number, the one scribbled on Ms. Grayson's business card. The house manager answered immediately. "Mr. Hartwell is in a closed session. Tell him Project Phoenix is ready for launch." Mia surprised herself with the steadiness of her voice. "And tell him his daughter needs him home." A beat of silence. Then, "I'll relay the message." The grandfather clock chimed 1 a.m. as Mia gathered the files. She hesitated, then opened Nate's laptop, left carelessly on the kitchen island, and typed in the password Sophie had innocently revealed earlier, Daddy uses Mommy's birthday. The screen bloomed to life, revealing an email draft addressed to every major news outlet. Attached were the original accident reports, the buried safety revisions, and a damning paper trail of board members who prioritized profits over lives. The message read, "My name is Nathaniel Hartwell, and I have failed you." Mia's breath caught. He'd been ready to burn his entire empire to the ground. Tires screeched outside. She rushed to the window just as a black sedan skidded to a stop. Nate emerged, his tie missing, his hair wild from running his hands through it. Right behind him, 3 news vans careened into the driveway, cameras already rolling. Sophie gasped from the stairs. "Daddy!" Nate took the porch steps 2 at a time, bursting to the front door just as Mia reached the foyer. Their eyes locked, his blazing with some unreadable emotion, hers wide with disbelief. "You sent the files," she whispered. "You stayed," he breathed. A reporter's voice shouted from outside. "Mr. Hartwell, can you confirm these allegations against your board?" Sophie barreled into Nate's legs. He scooped her up without breaking Mia's gaze. "I need 5 minutes," he told the clamoring press. Then to Mia, "Come with me." He led her to his private study, where a live news feed showed his CFO being ambushed outside corporate headquarters. The cheer-in read, "Whistleblower scandal rocks Hartwell autonomous." Nate set Sophie down with a coloring book before turning to Mia. "The board voted me out 20 minutes ago." Her stomach dropped. "Then why are the reporters?" "Because I leaked everything." He stepped closer, the scent of rain and desperation clinging to him. Every dirty secret, every cut corner, including my own failures. Outside, a helicopter thrummed overhead, spotlights sweeping the manicured lawns. Mia shook her head. "You'll lose everything." "I already did." Nate's hand hovered near her face, not quite touching. "The moment that car hit you." Sophie's crayon snapped. Both adults turned to see her drawing a stick-figure family. A tall man, a curly-haired woman, and 2 little girls holding hands. Nate's breath hitched. "Sophie, I know Mommy's gone," Sophie said matter-of-factly. "But maybe we could be a new family?" Mia's vision blurred. Lily appeared in the doorway then, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Mommy, why are there helicopters?" The weight of the moment pressed down. The chaos outside, the fragile hope inside, the lives balanced between ruin and redemption. Nate sank to his knees, eye level with both girls. "I made some very bad choices," he said hoarsely, "but I promise to do better. For all of us." His gaze found Mia's over their heads, full of silent questions. And for the first time since that fateful accident, Mia let herself reach back. The reckoning. Dawn painted the sky in streaks of pink and gold as Mia stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of Nate's study, watching the news vans and reporters slowly disperse. The night had been a whirlwind. Nate giving impassioned interviews, lawyers coming and going at all hours, Sophie and Lily eventually falling asleep on the oversized couch under a shared blanket. Now, in the quiet morning light, the weight of everything that had happened settled over Mia like a physical thing. Nate entered the room, 2 steaming mugs in hand. He looked exhausted, his dress shirt wrinkled, his usually perfect stubble now a full day's growth. But there was something lighter in his expression, too, as if a great burden had been lifted. "Coffee?" he offered, holding out a mug. Mia accepted it, their fingers brushing briefly. "How bad is it?" He exhaled, leaning against the window frame beside her. "The board has called an emergency shareholder meeting. The stock plummeted 40% in pre-market trading." He took a sip of coffee. "And the Department of Transportation just announced an investigation." Mia studied his profile. "You knew this would happen." "I did." Nate turned to face her fully. "And I'd do it again." The conviction in his voice sent a shiver through her. This wasn't the same guarded man who'd hired her just days ago. This was someone who'd finally stopped running. "What now?" she asked softly. Before he could answer, Ms. Grayson appeared in the doorway, her usual composure frayed at the edges. "Mr. Hartwell, the lead counsel from the victims' families is on the line." They're discussing a class action settlement. Nate nodded. Tell them I want to meet personally with every affected family. No NDAs, no confidentiality clauses. Full transparency. Ms. Grayson's eyebrows rose, but she simply nodded and retreated. Mia stared at him. That could cost you millions more. It should. Nate set his coffee down with a quiet click. Mia, I built an empire on innovation, but I forgot what really matters. Those people you paid the price for that. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple silver key, which is why I want you to have this. She frowned. Another car key? The main R&D facility, where Project Phoenix was born. His eyes burned with quiet intensity. I want you to lead the team that makes it right. Mia nearly dropped her mug. Me? I'm not an engineer, Nate. No, but you're the reason I remembered what we were supposed to be building in the first place. He stepped closer. You understand the human cost better than anyone on my payroll. The weight of the offer settled over her. She thought of Lily, of all the other children who could be riding in those cars, of the second chance neither she nor Nate deserved but were being given anyway. A sleepy voice interrupted them. Daddy, I'm hungry. Sophie stood in the doorway, Lily peeking out from behind her, both still in their rumpled pajamas. Nate's entire demeanor softened. Come here, you two. He scooped them both up effortlessly, one in each arm. How about pancakes with extra syrup? The girls cheered as he carried them toward the kitchen, throwing a glance over his shoulder at Mia. Think about it? She watched them go, the domestic scene so normal and yet so extraordinary. Her fingers tightened around the key in her hand. In the kitchen, laughter erupted as Nate pretended to forget how to measure flour. Lily giggled uncontrollably, while Sophie dramatically corrected him. The morning sun streamed through the windows, casting everything in golden light. Mia pulled out her phone and dialed Daniel. I need you to walk me through some automotive safety regulations, she said when he answered. And maybe help me find a good crash test engineer. Daniel's stunned silence lasted exactly 3 seconds before he burst out laughing. Oh, Mia, you never do things the easy way, do you? She glanced at Nate, now wearing a ridiculous apron as he flipped pancakes with exaggerated flair. The girls clapping. No, she murmured, a smile tugging at her lips. I guess I don't. As she joined them at the breakfast table, Nate's eyes met hers, full of quiet gratitude and something else, something that made her heart stutter in her chest. Sophie, ever perceptive, slid a sticky note across the table to Mia. On it, in childish scrawl, were 2 words. Welcome home. A new beginning. The scent of fresh paint filled the air as Mia walked through the newly renovated Hartwell R&D facility, her boots clicking against polished concrete floors. 6 months had passed since that chaotic night when Nate's world came crashing down, and with it, the beginning of everything new. Project Phoenix vehicles lined the testing bay, each equipped with a revolutionary braking system that had once been buried in corporate red tape. Now, it was a cornerstone of Hartwell Automotive's complete rebranding. Mommy, look. Lily's voice echoed through the spacious facility as she zoomed past in a miniature self-driving prototype, Sophie giggling in the passenger seat. The girls had become inseparable, their laughter a constant soundtrack to Mia's new life. A warm hand slipped into hers. Nate stood beside her, his eyes crinkling at the corners as he watched the girls. They're going to wreck my test track, he murmured, but there was no real annoyance in his voice. Mia squeezed his fingers. You built them a mini racetrack. What did you expect? The past months had changed them all. Nate had liquidated half his assets to fund the victim compensation program and the safety overhaul. The scandal had nearly destroyed Hartwell Automotive, but from the ashes rose something different, something honest. A young engineer approached, holding a tablet. Ms. Carter, the final DOT inspection is scheduled for tomorrow. They want you to present the safety features personally. Mia nodded. Tell him I'll be ready. As the engineer walked away, Nate turned her to face him. His thumb brushed her cheekbone, so familiar now. You know, you never actually said yes. To what? To staying. His voice was soft, but his eyes held the same intensity as that night in the study. With me, with us. Outside, the afternoon sun glinted off the girls' tiny electric car as they did loop-de-loops around the test cones. Lily's delighted shrieks floated through the open bay doors. Mia didn't need to think. She'd known her answer for months. She rose on her toes and kissed him, properly this time, without the weight of secrets between them. Nate's arms came around her waist, pulling her close until she could feel his heartbeat against hers. A chorus of "You!" came from the doorway. The girls stood there, Sophie covering her eyes dramatically, while Lily made exaggerated, gagging noises. Nate laughed against Mia's lips. "Get used to it, girls." Sophie peeked through her fingers. Does this mean Mia's really staying forever? Mia looked at Nate, at their daughters, at the second chance neither of them had seen coming. "Yeah, sweetheart, I'm staying." Lily hooped and tackled them both in a hug, nearly knocking them over. Sophie joined in, and for a long moment, they just stood there, a messy, imperfect, beautiful family. The future stretched before them, full of possibilities. There would be challenges, of course. The road ahead wouldn't always be smooth. But for the first time in years, Mia wasn't afraid of what might come next. She was exactly where she was meant to be. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and share it with someone who needs a little hope today. And remember, no matter how broken things seem, new beginnings are always possible. Subscribe for more inspiring tales of second chances and redemption.